The transport shuttle touched down on Nexus Prime with a soft hiss. Quan Taimin pressed his face against the small window and stared at the massive military station, floating in space. This was Iron Gate Academy, the most famous training facility in the entire Galactic Coalition. And somehow he had been accepted. Taimin stood up and grabbed his small bag. He was not a large man by Earth standards. At 175 centimeters tall and 68 kilograms, he looked average back home in Seoul. But as he walked down the shuttle ramp and into the arrival bay, he realized something immediately. He was tiny compared to everyone else here. The arrival bay was filled with new cadets from dozens of different alien species. There were tall creatures with purple skin and 4 arms. There were beings that looked like walking trees. There were reptilian soldiers with scales that gleamed under the station lights. All of them were massive. Most stood at least 2.5 meters tall. Their muscles bulged under their uniforms. They looked like they could break him in half without trying. Taimin took a deep breath and walked forward. He had not come all this way to feel small. He had worked construction for 6 years, lifting heavy materials every day. He had competed in strongman contests on weekends. He knew he was stronger than he looked. But here, surrounded by these alien warriors, doubt crept into his mind. "Attention," a booming voice echoed through the bay. Everyone stopped talking and turned toward the sound. A massive figure stepped onto a raised platform. The creature stood at least 3 meters tall, maybe more. Its body was covered in thick chitinous armor that looked almost like an insect's shell, but it moved like a mammal. 4 arms hung at its sides, each one thick with corded muscle. Its face had mandibles that clicked together as it spoke. "I am Drill Sergeant Vornkath," the creature announced. Its voice was deep and commanding. "For the next 6 months, I will turn you soft, weak creatures into soldiers worthy of the Coalition Defense Forces. Most of you will fail. That is expected. That is good. We only want the best." Vornkath's eyes swept across the crowd of cadets. Then they stopped. They locked onto Taimin. The drill sergeant's mandibles spread apart. It was smiling, Taimin realized. Or laughing. "What do we have here?" Vornkath climbed down from the platform and walked directly toward Taimin. The crowd parted. Every cadet turned to look. Taimin stood straight and did not move. His heart pounded, but he kept his face calm. Vornkath stopped right in front of him. The alien's shadow covered Taimin completely. "A human," the drill sergeant said slowly. "Our first human cadet in 300 years. Tell me your name, little one." "Cadet Quan Taimin, sir," Taimin said clearly. "Quan Taimin," Vornkath repeated. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, grinding sound. "Look at you. So small, so soft. Your arms are like twigs. Your body is like a child's. Tell me, Cadet Quan, why did you come here?"
"Do you want to die?"
Some of the other cadets laughed. Taimin heard whispers around him. "Look how tiny he is. Humans are supposed to be weak. I heard they come from a low-gravity world. He will quit before the first weekends." Taimin did not respond to the laughter. He kept his eyes forward, looking at the center of Vornkath's chest. "I came here to learn, sir," he said simply. "To learn?" Vornkath laughed again. "You will learn pain, human. You will learn that your species does not belong among warriors." The drill sergeant turned to address all the cadets. "Let this be your first lesson. Not all species are equal. Some are born strong. Others are born to serve the strong. Know your place and you will survive." Vornkath walked back to the platform, leaving Taimin standing alone. The other cadets continued to whisper and laugh. Taimin felt heat rise in his cheeks, but he kept his face neutral. Getting angry would not help. He just needed to prove himself through action, not words. The crowd started moving again as the cadets were directed toward their barracks. Taimin followed the flow. "Hey," a voice said beside him. Taimin looked over and saw another human. A woman, maybe a few years older than him, with short black hair and sharp eyes. "I'm Yuna," she said. "Looks like we're the only 2 humans in this whole mess." "Taimin," he replied quietly. "That was rough," Yuna said, nodding toward where Vornkath had gone. "He really has it out for us." "It does not matter," Taimin said. "Let him think what he wants. I will show him through my work." Yuna studied him for a moment, then smiled slightly. "I like your attitude. But fair warning, the trials start tomorrow. Physical tests designed for species that evolved on low-gravity worlds. It is going to be brutal for us. I will manage," Taimin said. They reached the barracks and found their assigned bunks. Taimin's was in a corner, which he liked. It gave him a view of the whole room. He set his bag down and sat on the hard mattress. Across the room he saw several alien cadets pointing at him and laughing. One of them, a reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes, made a show of flexing its massive arms. The others laughed louder. Una sat on the bunk next to his. "That's Thrix," she said quietly. "Sauron species. They are known for being aggressive and territorial. I would watch out for him." Taman nodded but said nothing. He was used to being underestimated. Back home, people always looked at his slim frame and assumed he was weak. Then they saw him lift twice his body weight like it was nothing. Their faces always changed then. That night after the lights went out, Taman could not sleep. He got up quietly and walked through the empty corridors of the academy. He knew he should not wander, but he needed to see more of this place. He needed to understand what he was up against. He found himself in a massive training bay. The ceiling stretched up at least 30 meters, and there, lined up in rows, were the war mechs. Taman approached one slowly. It was incredible. The machine stood at least 8 meters tall, a hulking suit of armor and weapons designed for combat. According to the label on its base, it weighed 8.5 tons. He read that it took 4 Krogar soldiers working together to lift and move one of these machines during field repairs. He placed his hand on the mech's foot. The metal was cold and solid. This was real. This was what coalition soldiers used in battle. And he was expected to learn how to pilot one, maintain one, maybe even save his life with one. Can't sleep either. Taman turned quickly. Commander Hana stood behind him, also human, wearing an officer's uniform. She was the liaison officer assigned to watch over the human integration program. "Just looking, ma'am," Taman said. "They are impressive, are they not?" Hana walked up beside him. "When I first came here, I felt exactly like you probably do right now. Small, out of place, wondering if it was all a mistake." "And?" Taman asked. Hana smiled. "And I learned something important. We are different from them, yes, but different does not mean weak." She looked up at the towering mech. "Tomorrow the trials begin. Show them what Earth made you. Show them that humans belong here." She walked away, leaving Taman alone with the silent machines. He looked back up at the war mech, 8.5 tons of metal and power. He wondered what it would feel like to move something that heavy. Soon, he thought, he would find out. Time seemed to stretch like warm glass. Taman saw everything with perfect clarity. The falling war mech, massive and unstoppable. Vornkath trapped beneath scattered debris, trying to push himself free but moving too slowly. Other cadets frozen in shock, their minds still processing what was happening. The mech would crush everyone in its path in maybe 8 seconds, 10 at most. There was no time to get an exoframe, no time to call for help, no time to evacuate. There was only Taman, his legs pumping, closing the distance in 4 long strides. His construction foreman's voice echoed in his memory. "When something heavy is falling, Taman, you don't catch it with strength. You catch it with position. Find the balance point. Let physics help you." Taman slid under the falling mech like a baseball player stealing home. 8.5 tons of metal and machinery descended toward him. He could see every detail, the hydraulic lines, the armor plating, the weapons mounting points. He positioned himself directly under the center of gravity, right where the weight would be most balanced. His right arm shot up, his palm met the underside of the mech's chassis, and then the weight hit him. Every muscle in Taman's body locked tight. His feet dug into the floor. His legs became pillars of compressed force. His spine aligned perfectly vertical. His right arm was a steel beam, extended fully, bearing the impossible load, 5 tons. The weight of 4 large vehicles. The weight that should have crushed him flat, and Taman held it. His arm did not buckle. His legs did not collapse. He stood there, frozen in time, holding a war mech one-handed above his head. The mech bay went absolutely silent. Taman's face was tight with effort. Sweat broke out across his forehead. His breathing came in short, controlled bursts. Every fiber of his being was focused on one task. Hold. Just hold. Vornkath stared up at him from the ground, mandibles hanging open in shock. "Move," Taman said through clenched teeth. His voice was steady despite the impossible strain. "Get clear, now." The words broke the spell. Cadets scattered. Vornkath finally pulled himself free from the debris and scrambled back. Thrix grabbed 2 smaller cadets and yanked them to safety. Taman counted in his head. 5 seconds, 6, 7, 8. His muscles screamed. Not from failure, but from the effort of holding back so much raw power. It was like containing an explosion inside his own body. Earth's heavy gravity had forged every cell in his body to be dense, efficient, over-engineered for this exact kind of impossible task. 9 seconds. 10. 11. Clear, someone shouted. Taemin's left hand came up slowly, carefully. He guided the mech's descent, letting it tilt away from where people had been standing. His arms controlled the fall, making sure it landed on its side instead of crashing down. The war mech settled onto the floor with a massive metallic boom that echoed through the entire bay. Taemin stepped back. He rolled his shoulders and flexed his fingers. His right arm ached but showed no signs of serious damage. His breathing was elevated but already returning to normal. No broken bones, no torn muscles. Just the deep fatigue that came from pushing his body to its absolute limit. He looked up. Every single person in the mech bay was staring at him. 200 cadets from 47 different species. Instructors with decades of military experience. Technical officers who had seen every kind of soldier. All of them stood frozen, their eyes locked on the small human who had just done something that should have been physically impossible. Yuna broke the silence. She walked forward slowly, her face showing a mix of pride and amusement. "Sergeant Vornkath," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the silent bay. "I believe you owe Cadet Quan an apology." Vornkath still sat on the ground. His forearms hung limp at his sides. He opened his mandibles, closed them, opened them again. No sound came out. "That," the drill sergeant finally managed, "that is not possible." "And yet," Taemin said quietly, "here we are." Footsteps rang out on the metal floor. Commander Hana appeared at the entrance to the mech bay. She held a datapad and was clearly watching something on its screen, probably the security footage of what had just happened. Her face was carefully neutral, but Taemin caught a slight smile at the corner of her mouth. "Perhaps," Commander Hana said as she walked into the center of the bay, "it is time we had a conversation about human biology. For everyone's benefit." The medical teams arrived within minutes. They surrounded Taemin with scanners and sensors, checking for injuries that did not exist. Their instruments beeped and flashed with readings that made no sense to them. "Muscle density off the charts," one medic muttered. "Bone structure should not support this," another said, studying a scan. "His cardiovascular system barely shows stress. How is that possible?" Taemin submitted to their tests patiently. He understood their confusion. He had grown up knowing humans were different from most species in the galaxy, but he had never really understood how different until now. Meanwhile, the story was already spreading. Cadets pulled out their personal devices and recorded messages. The security footage was being shared across the Academy network. Within an hour, people across Nexus Prime were watching the video of a human holding up a war mech with one hand. Thrix approached Taemin cautiously once the medic stepped back. The Soren's yellow eyes were wide. "I need to tell you something," Thrix said quietly. "The damaged exoframe. That was supposed to be a prank, a hazing thing. Make some noise, scare the humans a little. I did not think—" He gestured helplessly at the toppled mech. "I did not think it would actually fail like that." "I'm sorry." Taemin studied the alien's face. He saw genuine regret there. "People could have died," he said simply. "I know." Thrix looked down. "I know. I will accept whatever punishment comes. I just wanted you to know it was not meant to be this." "We will talk about it later," Taemin said. He was too tired to be angry right now. That evening, Commander Hana called an emergency assembly. Every cadet and staff member at Iron Gate Academy gathered in the main auditorium. Taemin and Yuna sat in the front row. Taemin could feel hundreds of eyes on his back. Commander Hana stood at the podium, her posture relaxed but professional. "Today, many of you witnessed something that challenged your understanding of what is possible. I am here to provide context." She activated a holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. "This is humanity's homeworld. For those unfamiliar with planetary classifications, Earth is rated as a heavy gravity world. Its surface gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared." Murmurs ran through the crowd. That was significantly higher than the galactic standard of 6.7. For comparison, Hana continued, the Krogar homeworld has 7.2 gravity. The Soren homeworld has 6.1. Most coalition species evolved on worlds with gravity between 5.8 and 7.5. She paused. Humans evolved on a world that would be classified as a high-gravity environment by almost every species in this room. The display shifted to show human anatomy. This has consequences. Human bone density is approximately 40% higher than the galactic average. Our muscle fibers are both longer and more densely packed. Our cardiovascular systems are built to pump blood against significant gravitational force. Every system in the human body is essentially over-engineered for normal space environments. An instructor in the back raised a tentacle. But the weight, 8.5 tons, even accounting for high-gravity evolution, that should not be possible. Under normal circumstances, you would be correct, Hana agreed. But humans also possess something called an adrenaline response system. In moments of extreme stress or danger, our bodies flood with hormones that temporarily enhance strength, speed, and pain tolerance. This can multiply our normal capabilities by a factor of 3 to 4. She looked directly at Tae-min. Cadet Kwan did not just use strength today. He used leverage positioning and every survival instinct evolution gave him. But yes, he also used raw physical power that would be impossible for most species. The auditorium buzzed with conversation. Some cadets looked excited. Others looked worried. A few looked frightened. Vornkath stood up from his seat. The massive drill sergeant moved to the front of the room and turned to face the assembly. For a long moment he just stared at Tae-min. Then slowly, deliberately, Vornkath placed all 4 of his fists over his chest and bowed his head. It was a Krogar gesture of respect, reserved for warriors who had proven themselves in combat. I was wrong about humans, Vornkath said, his voice carrying to every corner of the auditorium. I judged based on appearance. I assumed weakness where there was strength. Cadet Kwan saved my life today. He saved many lives, and he did it without hesitation. The drill sergeant raised his head. I apologize, Cadet Kwan. You have earned your place here. Tae-min stood and returned the bow Earth style. Thank you, Sergeant. The auditorium erupted in noise. Some cheering, some arguing, everyone talking at once. Tae-min sat back down next to Yuna, who was grinning widely. Well, she whispered. I guess the secret is out now. I guess so, Tae-min agreed. He looked around at all the alien faces staring at him with new eyes. This was going to change everything. The video spread across the galaxy faster than a solar wind. By the next morning, news feeds on every coalition world were showing the same footage. A human, small by galactic standards, holding up 8.5 tons of war mech with one hand. The reactions ranged from amazement to fear to outright disbelief. Tae-min tried to ignore the attention. He woke up at his usual time, went to breakfast, and prepared for training. But everything was different now. Cadets who had ignored him now stepped aside when he walked past. Some nodded respectfully. Others whispered and pointed. A few looked at him like he was a dangerous animal that might attack at any moment. They are scared of you, Yuna said as they sat together in the mess hall. She kept her voice low. Half of them anyway. The other half want to be your friend. I am the same person I was yesterday, Tae-min replied, eating his protein rations. They tasted like cardboard, but they had good nutrition. Maybe, Yuna said. But they see you differently now, and that changes things whether you like it or not. She was right. Tae-min could feel the shift in every interaction. When he entered the training gym, conversations stopped. When he walked down corridors, people moved out of his way. Even the instructors treated him with a new kind of careful respect. The academic side of the academy had also taken notice. That afternoon, Tae-min was called to the research division. He walked through sterile white hallways to a laboratory where 3 scientists waited. They were coalition researchers, each from a different species, all looking at him with intense curiosity. Cadet Kwan, said the lead scientist, a being with smooth gray skin and large black eyes. Thank you for volunteering your time. I did not volunteer, Tae-min pointed out. No, but you will cooperate anyway, the scientist said matter-of-factly. Commander's orders. We need to understand human capabilities for the benefit of the entire coalition. Please step onto the platform. Tae-min did as instructed. For the next 3 hours, they ran him through every test imaginable. Strength measurements showed he could deadlift 220 kilograms, over 3 times his body weight, without significant strain. Sprint tests revealed explosive speed. Endurance evaluations showed he could maintain physical activity far longer than most species. They tested his reflexes, his pain tolerance, His hand-eye coordination. Everything came back with numbers that seemed impossible by galactic standards. Fascinating, the lead scientist muttered, studying the data. Your muscle tissue has a completely different structure. Look at this. He showed Taemin a microscopic image. Most coalition species have primarily one type of muscle fiber. Humans have multiple types working together. Fast twitch fibers for explosive power, slow twitch for endurance. It makes you incredibly versatile. What does this mean? Taemin asked. The scientist looked at him seriously. It means humans are natural soldiers. Your species evolved to be survivors, strong enough to fight, fast enough to hunt, tough enough to endure. In the context of the coalition military, you are... He paused, searching for words. Exceptional. Possibly too exceptional. Too exceptional. Some species are already calling for restrictions on human military service. They fear humans could become too powerful within the coalition structure. Politics, the scientist said with obvious distaste. Not my concern. I just study the data. But you should be aware. Taemin returned to the barracks that evening feeling exhausted, not from physical effort but from being treated like a specimen under a microscope. He found Yuna in the common area, watching a news broadcast on the wall screen. You need to see this, she said. The broadcast showed the coalition council chambers. Representatives from dozens of species were engaged in heated debate. The human ambassador, an older man named Kim Dae-sung, stood at the center speaking calmly despite the chaos around him. No grounds to restrict human participation, Ambassador Kim was saying. We have passed all the same entrance requirements as every other species. We have followed every regulation. But the strength, a reptilian counselor hissed. One human did what should require 4 of our strongest warriors. They could overthrow governments, start wars. We must have safeguards. You mean you want to discriminate based on fear? Ambassador Kim replied coolly. How interesting. I thought the coalition was founded on principles of equality and merit. The debate raged on. Taemin watched with growing frustration. He had not asked to become a political symbol. He had just wanted to train as a soldier, to serve, to prove that humans belonged among the stars. They are making this bigger than it needs to be, Taemin said. That is what politicians do, Yuna replied. They take something simple and make it complicated. But look. She pointed at the screen where another delegate was speaking, this one supporting humans. You also have allies. Not everyone is afraid. The next few days brought more changes. Military contractors arrived at the academy to study the human problem. They measured Taemin and Yuna repeatedly, asking questions about their diet, their training, their history. They wanted to redesign equipment specifically for humans, lighter armor that would not slow them down, weapons calibrated for human grip strength, even new war mechs sized appropriately. Commander Hana called both humans to her office one evening. She looked tired, like she had been in meetings all day. I need to prepare you both for what is coming, she said, gesturing for them to sit. The Coalition Council is going to make a decision about human military integration within the week. There are 3 main proposals being debated. And those are? Yuna asked. First proposal, humans are restricted to support roles only. No combat positions, no command positions. Essentially, we become second-class military citizens. Taemin felt anger rise in his chest but kept his face neutral. Second proposal, Hana continued, humans are allowed but with heavy monitoring. Every human soldier would have a non-human supervisor. We would be tracked, evaluated constantly, never fully trusted. That is barely better than the first option, Yuna said. Yes, and the third proposal is the one I am supporting. Humans are recognized as a heavy world species with naturally enhanced capabilities, and we are integrated fully into specialized units, special operations, rapid response, extreme environment teams. We play to our strengths instead of being held back because of them. What do you think will happen? Taemin asked. Hana sighed. Honestly, I do not know. Taemin, what you did saved lives, but it also scared a lot of people. Fear makes people do stupid things. She looked at both of them seriously. Whatever happens, know this. You two have already proven that humans belong here. No council decision can take that away. That night, Taemin could not sleep again. He walked the corridors, ending up back in the mech bay. The war machine he had caught had been moved to a repair station. Engineers were checking it for damage. Cadet Kwan. Vornkath's deep voice came from the shadows. The drill sergeant stepped into the light. I thought I might find you here. Could not sleep, sir, Taemin said. Neither could I. Vornkath walked over to stand beside him, looking at the mech. I have been a soldier for 32 years. I have trained thousands of cadets. I thought I understood strength, weakness, capability. Then you taught me I understood nothing. I just did what was needed, sir. No, Vornkath said firmly. You did what I thought was impossible. And in doing so, you made me question everything I believed about your species, about strength itself. The alien was quiet for a moment. I spoke to the council today. I recommended full integration for humans. I told them that any military would be foolish to waste such capability on fear-based restrictions. Taemin looked at the massive alien in surprise. Thank you, sir. Do not thank me yet. The council may not listen, but I wanted you to know you have earned more than my respect. You have earned my advocacy. Vornkath placed a heavy hand on Taemin's shoulder. Your training continues tomorrow, and I promise you this. I will train you as hard as any cadet who has ever walked through these doors. Not despite your strength, but because of it. You have great capability. That means you must have equally great discipline. Yes, sir, Taemin said. After Vornkath left, Taemin stood alone in the mech bay. He thought about his home on Earth, about the construction sites where he had worked, about the simple life he had left behind to come here. He had not wanted to become a symbol or start a political debate. He had just wanted to serve, but maybe that was the point. Maybe the best way to serve was simply to be himself, to show through action, not words, what humans could do. Let the politicians argue. Let the scientists study. Let the fearful whisper. He would just keep proving every single day that humans belonged among the stars. The next morning brought news. The Coalition Council had reached a decision. Commander Hana gathered all cadets in the auditorium to hear the announcement. The holographic projector showed the council speaker, an ancient being who looked like a floating jellyfish of light. Its voice resonated through the auditorium with strange harmonics. After careful deliberation, the Coalition Council has decided to approve the Heavy World Species Initiative. Earth is formally recognized as a heavy gravity world. Human soldiers will be fully integrated into coalition forces with specialization in rapid response, special operations, and extreme environment deployment. All current restrictions are lifted. The alarm blared through the barracks at what felt like the middle of the night. Taemin's eyes snapped open. Around him, alien cadets groaned and climbed out of their bunks. He swung his legs over the side and stood up, already alert. Years of early morning construction shifts had trained his body to wake up fast. All cadets to the Crucible course in 10 minutes. Vornkath's voice boomed through the speakers. Anyone late will be dropped from the program immediately. The barracks erupted into chaos. Cadets rushed to put on their training uniforms and boots. Taemin dressed quickly and efficiently, then helped Yuna tie down some loose equipment on her belt. Thanks, she muttered. I am not a morning person. They jogged to the massive training facility along with everyone else. The Crucible course stretched out before them like a nightmare obstacle course. There were climbing walls that reached up into darkness. There were pools of thick liquid that bubbled ominously. There were platforms suspended in the air with nothing but thin cables connecting them. And at the far end, Taemin could see an area marked High Gravity Zone. Vornkath stood at the entrance, his forearms crossed over his chest. This course is designed to test every physical capability a soldier needs. Strength, speed, endurance, balance, courage. Each section is calibrated for peak specimens of your species. If you cannot complete it, you do not belong here. He let his eyes drift to Taemin. Some of you will find it especially difficult. But there will be no special treatment. No lowered standards. You pass or you fail. The first cadets were sent through. Taemin watched carefully, studying each obstacle. He saw how the reptilian Soren moved, quick and aggressive, using their natural agility to swing between platforms. He saw how the four-armed aliens tackled the climbing walls with ease. He saw how the massive Krogar warriors simply powered through obstacles that would stop smaller beings. Cadet Quan, Vornkath called out. You are next. Taemin stepped up to the starting line. Behind him he heard whispers and quiet laughter. The human is going to break his tiny bones. I give him 30 seconds before he quits. Taemin blocked out the voices. He focused on his breathing just like he did before lifting competitions back on Earth. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Find the comm center, begin, Vornkath shouted. Taemin exploded forward. The first obstacle was a series of heavy bags hanging from chains. The other cadets had dodged around them or pushed through. Taemin did not hesitate. He grabbed the first bag and used its momentum to swing himself forward, then caught the next one, building speed with each swing. It was like being back in the playground as a kid, but the bags weighed at least 50 kilograms each. He reached the climbing wall and started up. His fingers found holds easily. His arms pulled his body weight up smoothly. This part felt natural. Construction work had made his grip strength incredible. He climbed fast, using his legs to push while his arms guided. At the top, he faced the cable bridges. They swayed dangerously. One wrong step and he would fall 10 meters into a foam pit below. Not lethal, but it would mean failure.
Taemin did not think.
He just moved. Quick, light steps, using his lower weight as an advantage. Where the heavier aliens had to move slowly to avoid breaking the cables, Taemin practically ran across. The pool of thick liquid came next. It looked like mud but smelled like chemicals. Other cadets had struggled through it, their massive bodies fighting against the viscous fluid. Taemin dove in and immediately understood the problem. It was thick. So thick that every movement was like pushing through wet concrete. But Taemin had mixed cement by hand for 6 years. His muscles knew how to work against resistance. He pulled himself forward with long, steady strokes. His legs kicked in a rhythm he had learned in swimming pools back on Earth. Slow and steady. Do not waste energy fighting the fluid. Work with it. He emerged from the pool covered in the thick substance, but he was through faster than many of the larger cadets. He wiped his eyes and kept moving. The high gravity zone was next. Taemin stepped through the force field and immediately felt the weight. According to the display, it was set to 1.5 standard gravity. For most species in the Coalition, who evolved on low-gravity worlds, this was crushing. They had to crawl or move very slowly through this section. For Taemin, it felt like home. Earth's gravity was 9.8 meters per second squared. Most Coalition worlds had gravity around 6 or 7. The high gravity zone was actually slightly lower than what Taemin had lived with his entire life. He straightened up and walked through it at almost normal speed, his body adjusting automatically. Behind him, he heard surprised muttering from the watching cadets. The final obstacle was a test of pure strength. A heavy sled loaded with weights had to be pushed 20 meters across a rough floor. The recommended technique was to use your whole body, legs driving, back straight, pushing with everything you had. Taemin grabbed the handles and pushed. The sled was heavy, probably 150 kilograms, maybe more. His legs burned. His arms shook. But he had pushed heavier loads on construction sites. He had dragged equipment through mud and snow. He knew how to make his body work past the pain. He crossed the finish line and let go of the sled, breathing hard but not collapsed. His time flashed on the display, middle of the pack. Not the fastest, but far from the slowest. Vornkath stared at him, mandibles slightly apart. The drill sergeant had clearly expected him to fail, or at least struggle more. Acceptable, Vornkath finally said. Barely, but Taemin caught something in the alien's voice. Surprise, maybe a tiny hint of respect. It was a start. The first 2 weeks passed in a blur of training. Every day brought new challenges. Combat drills, weapons training, tactical simulations, survival exercises. Taemin performed consistently well, though never the absolute best. He was strong and quick, but the specialized aliens were stronger or quicker in their specific areas. Still, he noticed something. The other cadets stopped laughing at him. Thrix, the Soren who had mocked him on the first day, now nodded when they passed in the corridors. Yuna told him that cadets were starting to ask questions about humans, about Earth, about how a small species could be so capable. On the 15th day, their training shifted to war mech maintenance. All cadets gathered in the massive mech bay that Taemin had explored on his first night. Rows of the giant combat suits stood like sleeping metal giants. These are Titan-class war mechs, announced the instructor, a technical officer with 6 eyes and delicate manipulator arms. They weigh 8.5 tons each. In the field, you may need to perform emergency repairs or move a disabled mech to safety. This requires understanding their weight distribution and mechanical systems. The cadets were divided into groups and assigned to different mechs. Taemin ended up in a group with Thrix, 2 Kroger warriors, and a tall, thin alien that looked almost like a praying mantis. Standard procedure, the instructor continued. Requires 4 Kroger-class individuals to safely lift and maneuver a mech. We use exoframes for this purpose. She gestured to heavy mechanical suits that stood along the wall. You will practice using these frames today. Taemin listened carefully and watched as the first groups began their exercises. The exoframes were impressive, multiplying the user's strength by a factor of 10. With them, even smaller species could move the massive war mechs. His group approached their assigned mech. Thrix climbed into one of the exoframes while the Krogar warriors positioned themselves at lifting points. Taemin was assigned to monitor the safety systems. That was when he noticed something wrong. One of the exoframes near their station had scorch marks on its hydraulic lines. The metal looked stressed, possibly damaged. Taemin frowned and stepped closer to examine it. "Hey," he called out to Thrix, who was moving their mech slightly. "That frame over there looks damaged. We should report." A loud crack interrupted him. The damaged exoframe's support beam snapped. It had been holding up a suspended platform of tools and equipment. The platform tilted violently. Tools scattered everywhere. And then, in horrible slow motion, the platform's falling edge caught the side of their Titan-class mech. The 8.5-ton war machine began to tip, directly toward Vornkath, who had been inspecting equipment on the ground. The drill sergeant looked up. His forearms came up instinctively, but Taemin knew instantly that even Vornkath's incredible strength could not stop 8.5 tons of falling metal. Everything slowed down. Taemin's body moved before his mind caught up. He ran. Furthermore, Earth is invited to increase its recruitment and training programs. The auditorium erupted. Some 3 months passed. The academy settled into a new normal, where humans were no longer curiosities but accepted members of the military community. More humans arrived from Earth, 12 new cadets eager to follow Taemin and Yuna's path. The training intensified. Every day brought new challenges designed to push every cadet to their absolute limits. Taemin found himself changing too. Not physically but mentally. He learned to work with species that thought differently, moved differently, fought differently. He learned patience when teaching smaller aliens how to use human-designed equipment. He learned humility when larger species showed him techniques he could never master with his body type. Most importantly, he learned that strength alone did not make a soldier. It was just one tool among many. The final examination came without warning. All cadets to the briefing room immediately. The announcement blared through the speakers at 0400 hours. Taemin rolled out of bed already alert. Beside him, Yuna groaned but moved quickly. Around the barracks, 200 cadets scrambled to get ready. They assembled in the briefing room within minutes. Commander Hana stood at the front with Vornkath and several other senior officers. Her expression was serious. "This is your final examination," Hana announced without preamble. "You will be deployed to Station Kepler 9, an abandoned mining facility. Your mission: rescue hostages being held by hostile forces. You will work in mixed species squads. This is a simulation, but treat it as real. Your performance will determine whether you graduate or repeat your training." The room buzzed with nervous energy. This was it, the test that would decide their futures. Squad assignments are on your datapads now. You have 20 minutes to review your team and plan. Then you deploy. Questions? Taemin checked his pad. Squad 7, Quan Taemin, human. Yuna, human. Thrix Sauron. Vornkath Kroger. Plus 2 others, a 4-armed Deltan and a small insect-like being called Kree. It was an interesting mix. They gathered in a corner to plan. Vornkath was designated squad leader, which made sense given his experience and size. He pulled up a holographic map of Station Kepler 9. "We insert here." He pointed to an airlock on the station's lower level. "Hostages are held in the command center here. Multiple routes possible, but all monitored by enemy forces." He looked around at his squad. "I want suggestions." Thrix spoke first. "We could split up. Smaller groups draw less attention." "No," Vornkath said firmly. "We stay together. We are stronger as a unit." They spent 15 more minutes planning, then boarded their assault shuttle. The flight to Station Kepler 9 took 30 minutes. Taemin used the time to check his equipment. Standard coalition rifle adapted for human hands. Light armor, flexible but strong. Combat knife. Emergency medical kit. The shuttle docked with a soft clang. "Go, go, go," Vornkath ordered. They moved into the station in tactical formation. The corridors were dark except for emergency lighting. Their footsteps echoed on metal floors. Taman stayed in the middle of the formation, eyes scanning for threats. They encountered the first enemy 3 minutes in, combat drones programmed to simulate hostile soldiers. Thrix took point, using his natural speed to dodge between cover points. The Deltan's 4 arms let him fire while reloading simultaneously. Vornkath's heavy rifle made short work of anything that got close. Taman moved carefully, taking calculated shots. His accuracy was good, not the best in the squad, but reliable. He conserved ammunition and watched the squad's flanks. They reached a junction. Vornkath checked the map. Command center is 2 levels up. We take the north stairwell. That was when everything went wrong. An explosion rocked the station. Not simulated, real. Taman felt the floor shake beneath his feet. Emergency alarms began wailing. What was that? Una shouted over the noise. Vornkath's communicator crackled to life. Commander Hana's voice came through, tense and urgent. All squads, be advised. Station Kepler 9 has a weapons malfunction in the testing section. Real danger. This is not part of the simulation. Evacuate immediately. I repeat, evacuate now. Another explosion, closer this time. Sparks showered from damaged ceiling panels. Move, Vornkath ordered. Back to the shuttle. They ran. But as they rounded a corner, they saw fire blocking their path. The explosion had ruptured fuel lines. Flames filled the corridor they had entered through. Alternative route. Vornkath's mandibles clicked in stress. He checked his pad. There is a secondary airlock 3 sections over. We go there. They changed direction, moving fast through the deteriorating station. Kree, the small insect-like cadet, suddenly stopped. Wait, the hostages, what? Vornkath turned. The simulation hostages, Kree insisted. They are still in the command center. The simulation cadets playing hostages. They do not know about the real emergency. No one warned them. Commander Hana's voice came through again. All squads report status. Vornkath opened his communicator. Squad 7 here. We have a problem. Simulation participants are still in the command center. They do not know to evacuate. A pause. Then Hana's voice, tight with tension. The command center section will be sealed off by fire in approximately 4 minutes. Anyone still inside will be trapped until rescue teams can cut through. That could take hours. How many people? Vornkath asked. 6 cadets playing hostage roles. They have limited air supply in that section. The squad looked at each other. 4 minutes to reach the command center, grab 6 people and get back to safety. It was barely possible, and only if everything went perfectly. We evacuate, Vornkath said. Those cadets will have enough air until rescue arrives. We cannot risk 8 lives to save 6. No, Taman said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We go get them, Taman continued. That is what soldiers do. We do not leave people behind. That is suicide, Vornkath snapped. I am squad leader. We evacuate. That is an order. Taman looked at the massive Krogar warrior. He saw fear in those alien eyes. Not fear of death, fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of losing soldiers under his command. It was understandable, but it was still wrong. With respect, sir, Taman said. I am going anyway. You can come with me or not. He started running toward the command center. Behind him, he heard Una curse and follow. Then Thrix, then the others. Finally, Vornkath. Fine, but we do this my way. Spread out, move fast. Kree, you scout ahead. Una, prepare to carry casualties, Taman. The drill sergeant paused. Lead the way. They ran through smoke and sparks. Taman's earth-trained lungs handled the bad air better than most. He pulled ahead, checking corners, finding the fastest route. His construction experience paid off. He understood building layouts, could predict where damage would spread. They reached the command center with 2 minutes left. The 6 simulation cadets were trying to open a jammed door, panicking. Stand back. Vornkath used his strength to force the door open. Everyone out, now! The cadets scrambled through. Taman counted 6, all accounted for. Go, back to the airlock. They retraced their path, but fire had spread faster than expected. The route they had used was now completely blocked. We are trapped, one of the rescued cadets said, voice shaking. No, Taman said. He looked at the station schematic on his pad. There was another way, through an exterior maintenance shaft. But it required going outside the station, moving along the hull in zero gravity with only magnetic boots and safety cables. Through there. He pointed to a maintenance hatch. It is dangerous but possible. We are trained for this, Una said firmly. We can do it. They cycled through the airlock one by one. The exterior of Station Kepler 9 was a nightmare of twisted metal and stars. Taemin activated his magnetic boots and started walking along the hull. One foot, then the other. Safety cable attached. Do not look at the infinite void below. Behind him, the others followed. Some moved confidently. Others were clearly terrified but pushed through it. They were halfway to the evacuation airlock when one of the rescued cadets panicked. The alien, a young Deltan, froze completely. His four hands gripped the hull, unable to move forward or backward. "I cannot," the Deltan whispered through the comm. "I cannot move. Time was running out." They had maybe 90 seconds before the station's weapons section exploded completely. Taemin looked back at the frozen cadet, then made a decision. He unclipped his safety cable. "Taemin, no!" Yuna shouted, but he was already moving. Without the safety cable, he could move faster. But one mistake would send him floating into space forever. Taemin pushed off the hull, flying through the zero gravity toward the frozen Deltan. He caught the alien's arm. "Look at me," Taemin said firmly. "Look at my eyes, not the stars." The Deltan's eyes focused on him. "You can do this," Taemin said. "One step, just one, then another. I am right here." He guided the Deltan forward step by step, using his own body as a shield against the terrifying view of space. It felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds. They reached the airlock. Everyone piled through. The moment the last person was inside, the station's weapons section detonated. The shockwave rattled the airlock, but they were safe. Inside the evacuation shuttle, everyone collapsed, exhausted, terrified, alive. Vornkath sat down heavily beside Taemin. For a long moment, the Krogar said nothing. "Then I was wrong again." "About what, sir?" "I was a free,